Hey there, it's Russ, and welcome to another episode of Women's Retirement Radio. Today, I want to talk about the upside of a downturn. So, right now, we're all dealing with the impact and effects of the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic impacting people and countries, communities, industries, and economies around the world. And while there's a lot of anxiety and fear, increased uncertainty associated with all we're dealing with now in our daily lives. I want to also highlight some of the potential positives that we may be experiencing now or may be able to look forward to in the coming weeks and months and years. As humans, we have a documented history of innovation and ingenuity in times of crisis or in times of challenge. And I think this time will be no different. I think that we'll see new solutions, technologies, services, uh, delivery methods of those services that are introduced or that are serve as pivots to maybe what we've experienced in the past. Think of schools. So many of you have children at home right now who are taking online classes. They were formerly in school for, from let's say 7:30 in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, 6, 7 hours a day. If they had after school activities or sports or clubs, you can maybe tack another hour or two onto that. Those hours are now being transferred to time at home with you. And if you're not only juggling a family, but making sure that they attend their online classes and making sure that you're feeding everyone and kind of keeping the family going, it's really changed the dynamic. And so I can't help but wonder, is this going to impact how children are educated in the future? Not just in elementary, middle, and high school, but college. I've got a nephew that is home from Samford right now in Birmingham taking online classes. And I've also read and heard a lot about college students saying, where's my refund? I'm not at school. I'm not living in a dorm, so I want a partial refund for the fees that I'm paying for room and board. And I've also heard more and more students and their parents are asking about, well, where's a partial tuition refund? Because I'm not at school, I'm not getting the full college university experience, for better or worse. And so maybe the compensation or tuition should change as well. I was discussing this with my wife, and she had a great point, which is that even though you're at home taking online classes, the tuition is really, in many respects, associated with the name of the school and the pedigree, if you will, associated with the degree you're working towards. So I think you could argue either way that the tuition should stay the same, whether you're on campus taking classes or taking remote classes at home. However, this also raises the question about whether an online-only school like University of Phoenix, which as far as I know, is a predominantly online school, seems to charge less than going to a private university or even a state college. So, how do those things settle out, and do we see the increases in college costs, which have gone up and up and up over the past several decades? Do we see that start to level off, or maybe even start to come down? Do we see some colleges that aren't able to adjust and evolve with this new world that we're all living in and dealing with? I don't know how that shakes out, and I'm not suggesting that we need fewer schools. I would argue that costs have gone up at an extraordinary rate, and those probably need to level off or come more in line with what's actually being delivered and the true value of a college education. I'll leave that up to smarter people than I to discuss and decide. But the whole homeschool online class, dynamic aside, let's think about some of the other potential upsides. People are driving less, so there are less accidents, less fatalities associated with driving. A byproduct of that is there's less emissions. Our air is cleaner. I read that I think some places in China can now see the Himalayas for the first time in decades because the air is so much clearer. And if you look here in the U.S., among many of the large metropolitan areas, the air is cleaner. The smog is almost non-existent because people are staying home, driving less, walking, and/or maybe riding their bikes and that sort of thing. So there's maybe an unintended positive consequence of all this. People are increasing their hygiene. They're washing their hands. They're using facial masks. We're abiding by social distancing, and clearly that's got some downsides from a social interaction and a just kind of a community standpoint, but I think there are some positives there. I'll be interested to see maybe in weeks or months from now data about the prevalence or the rate of just normal sickness, colds, infections, sore throats, things like that, and whether that has decreased or not. I suspect that it will have decreased, but we'll have to wait and see. A lot of restaurants are now forbidden from having people come into their place of work and actually dine in their dining rooms. So they're having to adjust to curbside delivery and different mechanisms to serve their communities and to provide food. I know that I've seen some local restaurants here in the Atlanta area, as well as out near our lake house, are not only serving food off their menu, but they're also providing meal kits. So you can, buy a kit or a package of prepared or semi-prepared food to feed 4 to 6 people at a meal. Many restaurants I've seen are also selling some of their raw products like milk, eggs, other things like that, unprepared, uncooked steaks. And so, again, it's just interesting to see how different people, entrepreneurs especially, are thinking outside the box and finding ways to adapt and adjust to this new world we're living in. Other potential upsides are more and more people are now realizing the opportunities and admittedly the challenges of working remotely. But I think that this might be an opportunity for more and more people to work from home, if not full time, once we get kind of more back to our normal routines. If people don't work remotely full time, this might be an opportunity for them to work remotely a couple days a week, for example. And as I said, there's some good and bad that comes with that. But having worked primarily from a home office for the last over 10 years, I see a lot of upside and positives there. So I think that's mostly a good thing. And if you think about all of the potential commercial space, whether that's commercial office space or retail space, that might ultimately be freed up if more and more people are working remotely in the future, then that might be an opportunity to repurpose some of that space to maybe low-income housing, to utilize it for entrepreneurial space, for startups or co-working space. Again, I can't begin to list all of the potential ideas and opportunities, new ways of going about and doing things, new perspectives with which we can look at our world and our daily lives as we go forward from here. So while I'm sympathetic and empathize with each one of you that is dealing with new challenges and hardships, associated with or separate from the virus itself, just having to accommodate to doing things in a new way and finding new ways to get through your daily routine and take care of yourself and your family and your loved ones and your friends. I think that while there's a lot of challenge that we're all dealing with and will continue to deal with in the coming days and weeks and months, I want to be especially sensitive in highlighting some of the positives. If we can maybe look down the road and think about maybe some of the good that will come out of this. I think that in many respects, this virus has brought many people together to fight a common cause, and so I think it's brought a renewed sense of community in some respects that has been sorely lacking, both locally as well as globally for some time now. So I hope that despite the challenges and despite the anxiety, despite the heightened uncertainty that we're all facing and dealing with right now, I hope you can maybe see some upside in this downturn, maybe see some positives that will benefit you either directly or indirectly as we all move forward, adapt and adjust to things as we begin to hopefully turn the corner and come out of the pandemic lockdown, as we start to reacclimate and readjust back to some version of our normal lives. And I think that optimism is something that we can all benefit from utilizing more of these days. And so I just wanted to share my thoughts there. Hopefully you can take some benefit from my perspective on this, and I invite you to reach out and share your perspectives as well. So reach out to me via my website, wealthcareforwomen.com. Get in touch, share your thoughts. We'd love to hear your feedback. And until next time, this has been Women's Retirement Radio. Hey, before you go, it's Russ again with some important disclosure information for you. You should consult a financial advisor familiar with the specific circumstances of your unique financial situation before making any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mentioned rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. I'm a financial advisor, a certified divorce financial analyst, and an investment advisor representative of WealthCare Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor based in Richmond, Virginia. The views discussed in this podcast are my own and may not be consistent with or represent those of WealthCare Capital Management.